we're going to call to order the October 13th, 2015 Sherwood Planning Commission meeting. Roll call.
Chair Simpson,
Here.
Vice Chair Griffin,
Here.
Commissioner Flores,
Here.
Commissioner Meyer,
Here.
Commissioner Pearson,
Here.
Commissioner Reddick,
Here.
and Commissioner Walker is absent.
Thank you very much. We have a consent agenda in front of us that contains 4 sets of minutes. Is there a motion to approve, or does any?
So move.
Okay, it has been moved
Second.
and seconded that we accept the consent agenda. Is there any discussion on the minutes? I have 4 Scrivener comments that are non-material to the matter itself. I'll turn those in to Kirsten. All right, all in favor of the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Council liaison announcements. We have Council President Robinson here tonight.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Wanted to report that I appreciate each and every one of your efforts in moving forward on the recommendation as to chickens. Even though you as a planning commission did not recommend approval of the ordinance regarding chickens, your work helped pave the way to a fabulous discussion of the public that we have not seen in quite some time. The mayor is pleased with that, as she wants to have dialogue with our citizens. And in fact, we have had quite a bit of dialogue about it. As you know, if you pay attention to our meetings, we have another second meeting regarding the chicken ordinance. And there has been a lot more of an expressed interest by the public in the chicken issue. So we are having our city attorney work on some revisions to the proposed ordinance that was passed along to us. And we'll have some further discussions and public hearing again on the next city council meeting. So I just wanted to thank you. Even though you recommended denial, and despite my own personal opinion on the issue, I do appreciate you forging ahead with that issue, and it is all for the best of Sherwood in the end. Thank you.
Will citizens have an opportunity to speak at the 20th city council meeting? If they're listening tonight, would they have an opportunity to speak on the 20th, or is it deliberation only?
Actually, it's a second public hearing, so there will be public testimony taken at that time.
Okay, excellent.
Yes, so please come if you are listening and want to express your opinion.
Fantastic.
Thanks.
Thank you. All right, staff announcements. Brad?
Thank you. Just real quick, Alan and Chris came with me to Bend, it was 2 weeks ago now, for some planning commissioner training. I don't know if you guys want to share your experience on that or not. Hearing none, I will go on and move forward to say that. So we have now released our draft hybrid plan for the Sherwood West. So this is a culmination of the first 3 plans that we put out, all the public outreach, and then we put all that stuff into one. We now have that. There are packets up here. You're not on the community advisory committee. We still encourage you as a board to take these out and share them with people and collect the surveys back, because as much information as we can get, the better. So you're getting right there 20 packets with 20 surveys. Please feel free to share them and bring those back to me, or send them to me however you wish. You can even call us and we'll come by and pick them up.
I think Connie also told me there's
a drop box in the library that you can drop them off in the library as well. Which lends me to our next open house on this whole matter, where we will present this plan again to the public in a public setting. Will be October 22nd. That's next Thursday, and it will be over at the Sherwood Center for the Arts. So I encourage you to stop by if you'd like. The survey itself will be open until October 30th, at which point we'll close it, and we'll be making some changes, and then meeting with our Community Advisory Committee and TAC on the 19th, I believe, for going over those revisions.
So they can fill these out paper, turn them into the library, turn them into City Hall counter, bring them to the October 22nd meeting, or they can just take the information here and go online and fill out an online survey, correct?
That's correct. They can mail them in to me as well. Yeah, however you wish to get them here. By pigeon,
Carrier pigeons?
courier pigeons.
Carrier chickens?
On,
yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
On October 29th, there will be a public open house for the Cedar Creek Trail. Michelle, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, we're moving right along with our project on the Cedar Creek Trail. It's a design and construction of segments of the trail, as well as a planning phase for the area north of Highway 99W or northwest, however you're inclined to view that within the Cedar Creek corridor. Chris Flores has been participating in our local trail advisory committee. We've had one meeting with that. We have a meeting scheduled next week as well. So we're moving forward with the start of the design work in the corridor, and we'd like to see everyone out there getting feedback about that trail, and we're going to be developing a preferred alignment for the area northwest of 99W. So we're really excited that project's moving forward. It's a $5.6 million grant that the city received. It's a federal grant for a regional trail, so pretty exciting.
And finally, this is the time of year where they don't call it this anymore, but if you've ever heard of the SWOT analysis, basically we reach out to the boards and find out what you think the perceived strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats are to the community from a land use perspective or from planning perspective in general. And what I'll do is this week I'll send it out. I'll send out what we put together last year. Commissioner Simpson presented it to the board or to the council at the dinner, which is typically the first week in December. So hold your schedule open. There will be a board appreciation dinner, and it's usually pretty nice. I mean, the food's really good, and all the boards get to stand up and talk about their experiences while council's in the room. So that's a good opportunity to let them know what the priorities are for the board moving forward. So please keep that in mind. And how we did it last time was I sent that out. People just sent stuff back to me if they had things that they really wanted considered. And then I worked with Commissioner Simpson to come up with a letter to the council. We didn't do it as a formal SWOT analysis. So.
And then I went free form at the dinner.
And rightfully so. That's it. Thank you.
Any update on the tannery project? I know Julia probably working.
No,
on
I
it.
haven't heard anything. You know, that's going to be, it's a fairly long process, and the first part of it is trying to figure out and identify where they're going to put their test wells and things like that. We had questions. I think we shared with some of you last time that out on Oregon Street, there's some grading activity going on. And that's it. That's all they're doing is grading. I think that they're putting down their straw for erosion control now. And the idea was to just grade it so that it would be more marketable.
But that's there. Yeah, there's two parcels. There's the grading that's going on for the marketable site, and then there's the
Tannery.
DEQ cleanup site. And I guess has anybody approached Washington County or the current landowner about restoring the fence in that area so that kids can't go into that area?
I can't tell you with 100% certainty what the closure is on that, but it has been raised. I remember it being raised. I had heard discussion going on between the city manager and community development director.
Okay.
So.
All right. I just want to express a concern as someone who drives past it. It looks like we obviously know kids can go out there and cause trouble. So
Sure. No.
I know it's shocking. And then the last one is update on the medical and recreational marijuana within the city. Are we?
So you cannot buy recreational marijuana in the city right now. The council decided to take a wait and see approach. So basically, they're just going to see how it works in other communities, and then we'll revisit the topic. I think January 16th, they have to start accepting applications for recreational marijuana facilities, and
Right now is a open comment period on the proposed rules for that
with OLCC?
with the OLCC, and the city hasn't instigated any. We're just tracking the issue right now.
Okay. I just sense that there's going to be some sort of language that's going to be coming in front of us, and I want to make sure that we stay informed as to where we are as a community.
Yeah, I think if you remember, they would have to put it, we would have to, as a community, put it on the ballot to outright exclude it from the community in the next general election. So I think that after OLCC is done with their portion, we'll know, we'll have a foundation to work off of.
Okay.
To see if further restrictions are necessary.
All right. Thank you very much. We are now at community comments. Community comments are limited to those items that are not already on the agenda. And if you want to testify tonight, we ask that you turn in a blue card. No one's running to the microphone, so we will move beyond community comments to new business. And for the new business, we have a public hearing. The public hearing on LA 15-01 Bowman House 3 is called to order. The public hearing this evening will be conducted as follows. Staff will present the staff report up to 15 minutes. Questions, if any, by the hearing body for staff. We will then open the public hearing for testimony, and time will be limited as follows. Applicant 30 minutes, split between presentation and rebuttal. Persons in favor of the application 4 minutes. Persons opposed to the application 4 minutes. Rebuttal from the applicant will be the remainder of the 30 minutes. We will then close the public hearing. No other comments will be heard from the public or the applicant. There will be final comments by staff up to 15 minutes. Questions of staff, if any, by the commission, and then discussion by the commission. A decision may be made by the Planning Commission at the close of the hearing, or the matter may be continued to a time and date certain. If the matter is continued to a date certain, this will be the only notice of that date you will receive. If you wish to speak, please fill out one of the testimony forms and submit it to the Planning Commission Secretary. The chair will recognize people who wish to speak, and any questions should be addressed through the chair. When you come forward, please state your name and address for the record. In reaching a decision on the application, the commission must consider whether the application meets the relevant criteria in the city's land use regulations. Those criteria are identified in the staff report. There are 2 copies of the staff report available in the room this evening. The testimony and evidence must address these criteria or other criteria you believe to apply to the decision. Please note, failure to raise an issue with enough detail to enable the commission, the applicant, and the parties an opportunity to respond to the issues precludes an appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Also, failure by the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues regarding proposed conditions of approval, again with enough detail to allow the commission to respond to the issue, precludes an action for damages in circuit court. And as a quasi-judicial land use application in Old Town, the City Planning Commission is making the final decision. Any appeal will be to the City Council. At this time, I would like to ask members of the commission to discuss any ex parte contacts, bias, or conflicts of interest. Indicate the nature of the extent of the ex parte contact, bias, or conflict of interest, and indicate whether you intend to participate in or abstain from the hearing. All right. Does any...
I want to go ahead and make an announcement. I live on the street just a block away, but I don't think that will impact my ability to make a decision tonight at all.
All right. Thank you very much. Does any member of the audience wish to challenge any Planning Commission member's ability to participate? Hearing none, we will have planning staff present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair Simpson. Michelle Miller, Senior Planner here with the City. Good evening, Planning Commissioners. So the proposal here tonight is to construct a single-family home in Old Town located at 15824 Southwest 1st Street. You can practically see the site location from City Hall here. It's outlined on this map in yellow. It's near the Parabout and between First and on First Street between Oak and Ash Streets. The school district recently purchased this property from the city. It was part of, the city purchased this particular property as part of the downtown street project. You might recall the site from the Red House demolition application in 2008. You approved demolition of the red house, and in that year, the site is currently vacant. The demolition did occur, as well as the removal of some of the trees for the location and siting of the house. Additionally, there is a temporary use permit on the site for an accessory structure, a job site, and that is pending your final approval. Due to the fact we're in Old Town, it requires an Old Town overlay review for all the structures on the site. The school district purchased the property for a high school construction project. The plan is to design and construct the house and do the interior construction as part of a educational component, and ultimately sell the house to a private party. It'll take about 2 years to do. This is Bowman House 3, so they've had a few Bowman houses under their belt, and the property directly to the northeast has also been purchased by the school district. It isn't part of the proposal tonight, but ultimately we'll be seeing this back for Bowman House 4 potentially in the near future. The site is zoned medium density residential low. It requires the setbacks of 14 feet and 20 feet for the garage and side and rear setbacks. Another thing that's unique in the Old Town overlay is that off-street parking is not required, street trees aren't required, but it does require a planning commission review. The planning commission wouldn't necessarily review every single family dwelling unit in proposal in the city, but because it's in Old Town, it has some special design standards that are subject to your review. Taking a little look at those, you have residential design standards for new construction. You have 9 criteria to take a look at. I'll go into those in a little bit more detail. Let's see. Talked about that before. So taking a look at the front elevation facing First Street, the first criteria for volume and mass, it is to enhance the vertical character, and you can see that the components of that are the vertical siding, and also the verticality of the roof form is also considered part of that, enhancing the verticality. The height of the house is proposed to be 28.2 feet. Also under consideration is the pitch of the roof. The applicant meets the minimum criteria for that as well. And also you can see that there's three different pitch forms included with that from the front as well. There's a variety of materials with the different types of siding as well as the stone veneer included and the wood shingled siding. A porch is also a component of the Old Town standards. The applicant is also showing a porch in the front yard. Some of the other detail that's important with the Old Town review are those corner boards that you see, barge boards. There's shake trim and gable ends, and as well as the belly band between the floors also add interest to the design of the house and included in some of the Old Town standards to consider. You can see that the windows, the requirement is that they need to be more vertical than horizontal at a 2-to-1 ratio, and that's included with the exception of the one window up in the corner that I noted in the staff report. It's a window that isn't used, but it doesn't open, and it's to let in light to the stairwell. The front door also is required to have glazing. In this case, the glazing is at 29%. That wasn't noted in the staff report. It's so I'd like to have that corrected on page 28.11 for your review. And you can take a look at the left side elevation. The garage is on the northeast side, so this will be if you're looking from the parabout to the site. And this is the right side elevation. And here we have the rear elevation that's facing the walkway. The only thing to note here are those skylights facing the walkway. Something to consider whether this meets the standard or not. In reading the standard, they need to be placed on the side of the structure, not visible from the public right-of-way, and shall be a low-profile design. So in this case, the applicant has the First Street, which is public right-of-way, as well as Oregon Street or the pedestrian walkway, where those may be viewable from the street. It would be up to your consideration of whether those are low profile enough to meet this standard. And then finally, to take a look at the colors. Even though this is a representation of the house, I don't want to confuse you with the garage being on the right side. The applicant proposes to flip this with the garage facing the northeast, so they can share the driveway with that property because of the location of the other property in proximity to the pairabout. And finally, I'd like to request an addition of Exhibit E, which is this exhibit, which shows the site layout for the building footprint, as well as the location of the shed in the back. The applicant proposes the same color palette that you saw in the earlier slide for the shed to be in conformity with, to kind of match that design with the accessory structure. So staff's recommending approval with the following recommended conditions: design and construct a curb-tight sidewalk along that frontage, as well as a shared driveway with the property to the northeast. And ask that you answer any questions that you have right now.
Anybody have any questions of staff at this time before we call the applicant on?
I'm just curious about, there's a label on this site plan pointing storm at the property line. Is that like a swale or something on the property line there for water?
It looks like that I'm not exactly sure. Do you know? This is the plot plan review for this that was submitted for the building department.
Sure.
You see it?
It looks like it's a storm line
So
that
it
was
looks like
existing
that's-
from the.
That would be the storm line proposed, but because it's a building permit, and once you leave private property, once you leave the public right of way and on the private property, that location could potentially shift, but that's the location we're showing.
So my question regarding the shed to staff is, are we reviewing that as part of the application tonight? And are we required to do that as part of the Old Town?
It's somewhat of a gray area, I would say, and it's up to your discretion the level of review that the way that the code reads. It says that any structure in Old Town requires a planning commission review. So it would be under your review to see if it would be compliant with the standard. And there's precedent with the demolition of a shed. So we were kind of wanting you to take a look at it and whether you would approve that or not.
And I don't see any elevations for the shed in this. Did I miss?
Do we have out? I don't know if the elevations
didn't
met
see anything in
the
there.
accessory structure requirements, and so I don't know if the design was provided for that. I know that the description was that it would follow the same color, but I don't believe that there's any windows or.
Yeah, I wouldn't know about windows. I'm just trying to wrap my head around I understand it's a building and we have to look at it, but we don't have anything to approve, so we don't know what it's going to look like.
Maybe the applicant can describe it
Okay.
in a little bit better detail when you come.
So we can do that. All right. And then,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay, are sheds common in this area?
Yes.
Okay, so it would be in keeping with the,
There are many other in Old Town area.
right, so it would be certainly in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And not having a shed would be potentially a liability for the sale of the house because a shed would be used to store lawn equipment, et cetera. And that's the common use, so one way or the other, the buyer probably would want to have a shed eventually anyway.
I think he would be considered an amenity to the house, and the purpose is to sell the property, and the applicant would make something that would add to the value of that
Right.
property.
So in reviewing accessory structures, there's two different criteria that have to be considered, whether or not there's a building permit required for this one. And if there is, we have one set of criteria to fall under, and if there's no building permit required, then we have a different set of criteria to fall under.
It's a size where it did not require a building permit.
Okay, so when a building permit is not required and the structure is less than 100 square feet and less than 6 feet tall, no rear or side yard setbacks are required and the structure may abut.
Is it less
This
than 6 feet
structure
tall?
is not less than 6 feet tall.
Exactly, I don't think.
It needs to be 3 feet from the property.
Okay, so then when it's not within all those criteria, then detached accessory structures shall maintain a minimum of 3 foot from any side or rear property line. And no accessory and it's building permit's not required, you said.
Mhm.
Okay, so now we know what we have to, I just want to know what code we were having to follow, so part of the Old Town design review criteria so that it matches the main house. And then the setbacks are based on it not being permitted, but with greater than 6 feet, so it has to meet setbacks of 3 feet per side.
Right. Generally, when someone comes and asks, where can I put a shed on my property, we look at the size of the structure and the height of the structure, and that kind of leads the discussion of where it can be located on the property. And it's just an over-the-counter and no permits required, no fees are transferred or anything like that.
Okay. But it's been mentioned in our application, so I think as a commission, we should probably just know what it's going to look like so that we can state it's going to meet Old Town design criteria.
Definitely.
Okay. All right. We have an applicant. I don't have a blue card, so I can't call you by name.
Oh,
So.
this is John Dickover. He's a construction teacher at Sherwood High School.
Fantastic. If you can come to the table and state your name and address for the record. And before you start speaking, you have to push the button down and hold it for 2 to 3 seconds until the light turns green.
There we go.
All right,
Good,
fantastic.
okay. My name is John Dickover, and a little bit different situation, I think. Do you want my personal address, or
You can
since
get the
I'm here
school
f-
address.
Okay, so it's
The
16
school is, yeah.
Yeah, it's not my personal.
Yeah.
I think 16956 Southwest Meineke Road, here in Sherwood, 97140. I can. Some of those questions I can address. The first one being the storm. If you would like me to address the storm question, that was the city engineer does not like to have weep holes in the curb, and so that would be the storm line that we would have to go out into the middle of First Street, and so that's why that line goes all the way out. We wanted to put it in that location right near the property line, simply so that it could be we could trench for 2 different items at one time. So it's just proximity close to another.
Okay, thank you.
Let me think if there's the addressing the shed design. It's a 10-foot tall structure, which is the code for approving getting permits. It's going to have the horizontal lap siding that will match the existing or the proposed house, and then with the shingles on the gable ends to also match the shingles on the proposed house as well.
And the pitch of the roof is in compliance with how, the 612 in Old Town, or close enough?
On those, you're talking about the shed, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
The pitch of the roof for the shed is a 412 pitch. Wanted 8-foot tall ceilings, and being such that it was 12 feet wide, it would be a 2-foot elevation from the walls to be able to stay under 10 feet.
Okay. All right. And staff just handed us front, side, and rear elevations of the shed that we'll label Exhibit F.
Correct. So that comes out of the temporary
D.
use permit.
We have E already.
C.
Oh, this is C.
A is the applicant's materials. B is the engineering comments.
Okay.
I'd also like to mention the purpose of the shed. The school district purchased the property at a time, with the timeline being difficult, where at the start of the school year, starting in September, I had students, and this class is designed to teach them how to frame
Mm-hmm.
and to do residential construction. So to kind of we thought it would be a win-win-win situation to be able to teach them how to build on the shed, which would be then something that the house would benefit from in the end as like I said, a storage structure or whatever the homeowner chose to use it. And so we've been able to, it's been a great opportunity to be able to teach the kids so far to how to pour concrete, because we put it on a concrete pad, how to frame on that structure rather than on the house. And so they're learning a lot on that portion of it, which will help us in the construction of the home. In addition, we're hand cutting the roofs to the shed, which is something that we don't get to do on the houses, because usually those are truss built, and I don't put kids up on the roof for safety.
Right.
So in this situation, we've been able to do that, which has been a good benefit for the kids.
I was hoping for the civics class to be here with you to present the application or whatever other relevant class would be. Do you have, I guess just for the record, are you in agreement with the conditions of approval as written by staff?
Yes.
Okay, so there's no conflict there, no changes that you're going to request?
No, the intention has been all along to put in a 5-foot wide tight to the curb sidewalk, and also to have a shared I'm gonna have to have a driveway, so.
Might as well have a shared one for the second one, right?
Yeah, well, with the proximity to the parabout, we felt it was best to share them, to keep them as far away from that parabout as we could.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Anybody else have any questions for the applicant?
I think we have a unique situation in that we have a contractor who will not disappear once the house is built.
Yeah.
You don't have to rebut that.
I hope not.
So what's your warranty, lifetime?
Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. If there is no other questions of the applicant, we can, there's no one else, so it's going to be silly for persons in favor or opposed. So at this point, I think we will just close the public hearing, and then we'll have the commission deliberate. So you are free to return to your seat, and we
Thank
will
you.
close the public hearing part of it and have any final comments by staff.
I have no other comments. Oh, the pitch of the roof is in compliance for the accessory structure. It's 612.
Thank you.
I think John
No
just said it
more
was
than
412.
It can be no less than
Oh,
612.
got it. Okay, so it's not too
412.
pitchy.
Not too pitchy.
It's not overly pitched.
And
Oh, I like that
pointy.
too.
I guess it's
and
not
I
pointy.
believe that they've done a good job in matching materials.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's probably going to be the best looking shed with all the shakes and other stuff that they have, the lap siding. So Does anybody else have any further questions, comments, or concerns?
I have a couple that I'd like to bring up.
Mhm.
So one is, I should have asked John when he was up here, but I just thought of it. The plan for where do the students park when they're constructing. Initially it was in September sometime, I went around the corner and there were two kids' cars parked right there, right around the corner, and nearly clipped the corner of one of the vehicles because I couldn't see it until I got around that corner. So I'm hoping that there's a plan that they're not going to park anywhere on the roundabout, which is not allowed, I think, but I don't know. And the other one is, I think it was probably Tuesday, or maybe it was in the last few days. Is it Monday? No, it's Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah, I think it was last night. It was either last night or it was Friday night. There was a delivery truck there late at night, like at 8:30, 8:45, and they were delivering something and putting it onto the site. I don't know if they were windows or something they were hauling out of the back of a truck, and they were barely around the corner, and they weren't tucked away at all. They were blocking the lane. I had to drive up onto the grass to get past them. So as a contractor, I would assume that you would want your delivery people, to deliver certain hours and not deliver like they were at all. So that would be my concern, would be just safety, safety on the roundabout. Whatever the city thinks is, appropriate, because it is so close to that roundabout.
Right, and I don't know if we can put any conditions of
Right, and
approval,
that was
but we
really
can just
For
mention it
John,
to
because he's
staff.
the general, I guess. You're the general contractor? Yeah, so he's the man. So he can tell those students what to do.
There you go. Regarding the skylight comment that was made, I think this is unique, and we've come across this situation infrequently in that it has two frontages, and you kind of have to look at the First Street frontage as being the primary. And I believe they've done, in looking at the presentation, minimize the skylights, and it is at, what did you call it? Low profile skylight. So I think they're meeting the intent of the code. And that was the one question staff asked of us, is as a subjective decision, I believe that it's easy to say that that would be appropriate and sized within what the intent of the code was.
I have another question. So if the shed is located, if it's greater than 6 feet tall, it'll be 3 feet away from the fence.
Mhm.
Does the roof overhang so that the drip goes inside the fence onto the property, not outside into the beds which skirt along the walkway? Do you guys know? It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, it can't leave the property.
That's
And
what I thought.
Yeah, well, the way it's set up, the gables don't hang over the property line.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, I have one more question.
Yes.
I noticed, I'm sorry, I really read through this.
I did too. I had a
The
couple more.
application said that there's no landscaping required whatsoever. So this picture, although lovely it is, that's not how it's going to look. Is there landscaping planned, or is that up to the person who buys the house, or how does the city
It's not a requirement.
at all?
Correct. So it's not under the purview of the planning commission to direct them one way or the other.
Okay.
Right, and it was noted that the applicant has proposed garden beds
Right.
and grass.
Okay.
My question was related to the fence. And I meant to ask that.
Oh.
Did you were able to get the location and height of the fence that would be in compliance with the code?
Right, the applicant indicated that he proposes a wood fence in the front where it can be no taller than 42 inches, and in the rear, it can be 6 feet along the side, with the exception of along the walkway, to ensure that it's at least, if it's less than 3 feet from the walkway, it needs to be the same 42 inches. But in this case, there is that buffer, the landscape buffer you might notice, between the walkway and the private property, so that he could put a 6-foot fence along there. He also plans, according to conversations that we've had about this, to plant some arborvitae as well to give more privacy to the property owner.
Thank you for addressing that, because I again, it's a double frontage when the public space is on both sides of it, and I didn't know how they were going to address the rear fence when technically it's also abutting the public. So they're going to use the 3-foot buffer and then put a 6-foot tall fence in, and they're clear with the code part of that. That answers my questions and concerns regarding the application. All right, do we have a motion?
I move we approve.
Oh, there's,
Is there a formal statement?
yes.
I'll let you do it down there so you're not passing it. I'll
Want to do it, Chris? Right here.
Lean forward into the microphone.
Approve the application with the conditions established, like first presented.
I gotta
Yep.
find all the numbers and stuff.
don't forget to turn on your mic.
15-01,
Oh, thank you. 15-01.
LA 1501.
Oh, thank you. All right, I move the Sherwood Planning Commission approve the application for the Bowman House 3, LA 15-01, based on the applicant testimony, public testimony received, and the analysis, findings, and conditions in the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve LA 15-01 Bowman House 3. Are there any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you very much for coming this evening. All right. Planning Commission announcements. Are there any Planning Commissioner announcements, like maybe a play coming up or anything?
Well, in the community center, Peter Pan next week. That's VPA.
This weekend.
Is it this weekend? Oh, I get it. Oh, that's right. And they're in Tech Week right now. And I was at tech rehearsal last night, and they have 95 kids in 2 casts. So,
Wow.
so they have 2 Peter Pans, 2 Wendy's, 2 Michaels, almost 2 of everything. There are some kids that go between both. And it's going to be in the Sherwood Community Center, and they have the most amazing pirate ship you've ever seen. And it's in there, and it's like 8 feet tall. It's huge. Not only that, but they have some of the best painted backdrop scenery I've ever seen. It's amazing. It's beautiful. So I think it's going to be a great show. It's this weekend.
Fantastic.
It's almost sold out.
Yeah.
Very good.
Well, didn't know I was going to be asked about the conference we went to. For those of you who missed it, I'm sorry you missed it. It was excellent. I appreciate being invited. I appreciate Julia driving me up and Brad driving me back. But if in the future, if you get an opportunity to go to these, I recommend it. You get to interact with other people just like you in all sizes, towns, all over this state. And we share the same goals, the same ideals, the same principles of trying to improve the communities in which we live. And we don't get paid for it. And we do it because we care and we want to make our towns and cities the best they can be. So it was certainly worth the drive, 6 hours on the road. But it was a beautiful day and it was a beautiful drive. And it was a very fun, interesting session. And and if you ever get a chance, and I hope this is an annual event, I presume, the rest of you on this committee, I recommend if you get a chance, do it. It's worth the time.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. All right. No further business. I don't know how to technically adjourn other than to say, hearing no further people jumping up to speak will adjourn. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. I don't know if you have to take a vote.
Read that.